Very welcome back. Now we are going to start playlist 1. In playlist 1, I will go through risk assessments on how to protect the drinking water when you're using treated sewage water as your raw water source. This playlist will contain 5 small mini lectures, where this video is one of them. And with that said, let's go in and have a short recap of what I said in my starting video, and also look at the pros and cons of using treated sewage water as raw water source for drinking water production. So stay tuned. So when we talk about raw water sources, most of you will think of groundwater or surface water. And maybe some of you will have a thought on treated sewage water, depending on where you live. So in the next slide, I will go through the challenges that you have using a treated sewage water as your raw water. Treated sewage water as a raw water source for drinking water. What are the challenges in that? Let's have a look on these checkpoints, so to speak. First, as I said, you need to encounter a serious lack of raw water sources, groundwater, surface water, before you start looking at sewage water, of course. Also, when you go into the source itself, you will find high concentration of microorganisms in the effluent water from the treatment plant. You will have elevated concentration of nitrogen and phosphorus compared to other raw waters. And of course, nitrogen, phosphorus, you don't want to have in your finalized drinking water, of course. You will have a risk for elevated concentration of micropollutants, medicine residues, so forth and so on, microplastics even. And finally, in regard to using treated sewage water as a water source, you have what I've named a mental consumer barrier. Basically, you don't want to drink out of the toilet. So when you look at treated sewage water, a raw water source, there are many challenges in regard to the pollutants, and also, of course, to how people will perceive knowing that you are actually reusing the treated sewage water for drinking water production. But there are also some positive sides in regard to being safe using the treated sewage water as a raw water source. And we're going to have a look at that right now. First, it's very important to remember that it's technically possible to use a treated sewage water as your raw water for drinking water production. We have all the technical tools we need for that. With that said, keeping that in mind, let's have a look at this checklist I made up on some points that are, I would say, positive in regards to control of the raw water source. First, in a larger plant, you have 24/7 a good control of the raw water source. You have operations, you have a knowledge of how the incoming quality flows will vary. Also in the treatment plant, you have online measurement for quality control. In bigger plants, you have operational lab where you can run analysis on a routine basis in the plant. Also, and this is very important, the upstream work, stopping the pollutants before they reach the wastewater treatment plant. Here in Sweden, we have a system called REVAC, which actually certifies the produced sludge of a treatment plant to be used on farming lands. And in that REVAC system or quality system, the upstream work is high priority. So you stop the pollutants at the sources. I don't know about other countries, but I think many countries have this type of certification and really focus on upstream control before the wastewater treatment plant, and that's very important. Also, as I said in the start, we have good technical solution, and that is also true for the so-called safety barriers on stopping microorganisms from coming through to the finished product, the drinking water. You have guidelines and cookbooks for preparing for the worst. One of them I will now go through in this analysis of safety barriers. That's one kind of cookbook or guidelines which are quite easy to use and very effective. Also, and finally, but definitely not the least thing, so to speak, it's the operational awareness of the importance of the risk handling. Basically, we are using a water that we know has a high risk. So the awareness and the way to look at safety and risk is very, very clear. And that's an advantage because we won't underestimate the risk, because we know we have a high risk situation. So that gives a good boost to good, how should I say, operation control, risk management, and cutting down on risks. In the next part, the next video, I will make a quote-unquote example of a treated sewage water. Based on that treated sewage water, I will make an MBA, a Microbiological Barrier Analysis. So, stay tuned for the next part and video.